Hi everyone, Gary Comer. We're in another session on our Soul Whisper concepts, and this week we're going to be addressing the gospel key. And I have my friend Mark Santoro who is with me, and I'm really thrilled to have him come and share some of his story of using this particular technique. And I do want to say that this technique is one that you are going to want to have in your arsenal. It is a very potent way to speak into people's lives. I also want to preface this in saying, if you have someone who is coming forward and seeking for knowledge about Christ, asking questions, if they're seeking, I just want to say, lead them to Christ. We don't ever want to make it more difficult than it is. But often we struggle with finding how to speak to people about our faith in a way that really gets to the heart, in a way that draws them forward. And this particular skill is all about that. Of course, we learn it and we see it in the life of Jesus. And the easiest example is his conversation with the Samaritan woman when he uses the term living water. When he expressed that to her, she heard it. You could see her perking up, he explained this thing that would well up within her, and she wanted it. It drew her. It was something that she desired. And so we see how it was resonant. And we talk about a key. A key is something that opens something. It turns the door to open. It creates interest and intrigue. But also a key can be a musical thing, a musical key. It's resonant. It resonates in a person's life. And so this is the power of this particular skill. And I'd like to illustrate it in a couple ways. First of all, I wanted to tell you that we see it happening in the early church. We see keys used with the messaging to the Jews initially, and then to the Gentiles later. We had a message to the Jewish people, which was Jesus is the Messiah. And when that message went out, and that was a key message, and people would then respond to the cross and what Christ had done. And then we also saw that same thing happening in a distinct way with the Gentiles. It was a different message, though. Jesus is Lord, Lord over all the lords. The Romans were a religious culture, Lord over all these different gods. And so we see that this message, a key that preceded the cross, we see that type of 1-2 in the early church, and of course we see it in the communication with Christ. But I want to tell you about Mark and a little bit of what happened and ask him some questions. But you were meeting with your friend at work, Tom, and Tom's a non-believer, and you initiated conversation with him. What is it that you shared initially?
What I was sharing with Tom, we had the opportunity to drive. We carpooled, so we got to spend at least an hour and a half, and so we had some great conversations. And there was a particular day where I just, thinking about some of the materials that we were going over in class together, it really, I was real moved by this, and I decided that I wanted to open up to Tom about some of the things that were going on in my life, and more particular, some challenges that I was being challenged with. So I decided to open up to him about some marital challenges I was having.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that's so great here is that Mark discloses something. And what happened in response?
I disclosed to him some of the challenges I had, and it seemed like this, that this resonated with Tom. It was almost, he basically said, I'm not married, but some of the challenges and the pressures that you're feeling, the stress that you're feeling, I relate.
Mm-hmm.
He said he made the comment that life is so burdened for me. I feel like I'm carrying so much weight on my challenges. There's so much expectations from me.
And what was your response?
I said, I understand those expectations, and I said, it's really interesting on what Jesus has to say about this. And his simple words are, my burden is light.
Yeah.
And instantly he wanted to know more.
Yeah. Yeah, and we saw incredible, amazing things happen with Tom, didn't we? He was not a believer, even really an atheist or agnostic, right?
I would say he was atheist.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Yeah.
he was in a band called Blasphemy. I mean, so he
Yeah.
was in a punk. He was a drummer in a punk rock band called Blasphemy. So
Yeah.
I mean, I would say he's atheist. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he ends up going out. Based off of this conversation and this dialogue that continued to get a Bible and to eventually start going to church and to come to Christ. So it's very, very exciting. I mean, I had also the experience of seeing someone come to faith through something, as a key type of communication that took place. I was going through my own brokenness, and I was reflecting upon the fact that I had the Lord and the Lord was with me. And I knew a friend that I'd been sharing with, and this person was going through a similar type of situation, but didn't have the Lord. And so my communication was all about how the Lord would be with this person, that their spouse had left them. And I said, the Lord is going to be with you. God is going to walk with you forward. If you are to respond and come into the faith with Him, He's going to be with you for your whole future. And boy, that message again, it resonated. And a week later, this person came into the faith. And so it's a very powerful technique. We're going to give more attention to this and talk a little bit about how that sequence plays out and the communication part of it plays out. But Mark, I want to thank you for coming and sharing about this sharing experience. Just really great for us to see it play out. And I also want to say we're going to come back and give more attention to the gospel key and the communication sequence. So come on back for the next session as we journey forward.